The world is changing, and so is the way consumers conduct their lives online. Not only do they demand more personalized experiences and expect excellent journeys on digital channels, but they're increasingly aware of the risks they face too. Cybercriminals target entire digital ecosystems, from social engineering attacks to large-scale breaches of back-end systems. When robust security is not negotiable, the bottom line depends on one thing: trust. Trust that the money, transactions, records, and sensitive communications that need to be protected are 100% secure, anytime, anywhere, on any device, without security stifling the user experience. So, how do you engineer trust? It's simple. You invest in it with Entersekt's globally recognized, multi-patented, omni-channel digital security and authentication technology, the Entersekt Secure Platform. Built on a public key infrastructure and offering the best in authentication technology, our secure platform allows organizations to identify their customer with a high level of confidence, engage their customer when they want, where they want, and deliver an outstanding user experience every time. With the foundation of trust established, our secure platform can be used as a launchpad for innovative digital products, protecting consumers on 3 continents. Our proven solutions strip away the complexity of implementing strong security, allowing organizations to differentiate their brand with ingenuity, compete with agility and speed, and maintain their reputation for dependable service in the eyes of their customers. It's deceptively simple, but extremely effective. So effective, in fact, that Entersekt's deployments have seen digital banking fraud losses drop by over 99% overnight. That's the bedrock of a secure digital future. Brought to you by Entersekt, the power of trust.
How does innovation happen? What makes one person apply the same old thinking while another finds a new way? At Entersekt, innovation happens because it's personal. The early internet was a near utopian ideal, a free zone of shared ideas and fluid identity. But soon, the dark reality of cybercrime emerged. It's become an arms race between the good guys and the criminals. Sometimes it seems safer to physically go to the bank, better not to buy that book online, easier to drive to the office than figure out the corporate access. But this problem wasn't important to our 4 engineering students. That was until Christian's mother lost money to online fraud. Traditional security wasn't working, and it was clearly up to these 4 to fix it. Undaunted by the scale of the problem and the time and money already invested by others in trying to find solutions, Entersekt's founders set about rethinking the whole thing. The answer, they discovered, was hiding in plain sight: the mobile phone. It's always with us, and using digital certificates can be made extremely secure as a personal authentication device. By building a fully encrypted channel between a bank and its customers using their mobile devices, Entersekt is bringing trust back to the internet. And Christian's mom can now bank at home with total confidence. True innovation happens because people care enough to make a difference. Entersekt. Authentication you can trust.
So Entersekt is a authentication services provider, and we focus on the security and authentication of the internet as well as the mobile channel. Entersekt came about in 2008 when a number of engineers in Stellenbosch, South Africa were wondering, how is it possible in South Africa, every single financial transaction being protected by an SMS one-time password, that customers are still falling victim to phishing and to fraud? So we actually received seed funding in early 2010, and we opened our doors on the 1st of February 2010, so we're about 4.5 years old. We quickly became the dominant player in the South African market, and today more than 2/3 of banking customers utilize our software. We had a world-first launch with Nedbank, which is one of the biggest banks in South Africa, and Zurich-based Swisscard is our first European customer, and they actually utilize our software for online card purchase protection. We have a number of US patents. We've patented all our software, and the first one started actually coming through this year. And our software is the first software authentication solution which is FIDO certified or FIDO ready. So why do we exist? Mobile and internet channels are exploding. Everything is moving towards the internet and the mobile, and the problem is that the actual risks associated with these type of channels are increasing as well. Not a week goes by where we don't actually hear about some form of breach or malware or heartbleed or something like that. So what opens up our opportunities in the market is actually firstly regulation, where certain markets and banks, like the likes of Taiwan and Hong Kong, also Singapore, where the banks are forced to do transaction signing. Also market conditions, as I just explained. Failure of current solutions, specifically OTPs, but in general, I mean, at this stage, there's massive fraud and there's a lot of solutions out there. Also, certain banks are being held liable for the fraud and fraud losses of their customers. So why do current industry solutions not work? And in general and specifically one-time passwords. And I'm showing here one-time passwords, whether it's generated on a hardware token, soft token, or whether it's sent via SMS. The problem is, as Gartner has said, is that this one-time password is actually being entered into the browser. And that's where the attack takes place. That's where this password and this one-time password is actually intercepted. So to show you a quick diagram of what this actually means and how phishing defeats one-time passwords, you will see that this is a user is clicked on an email when they click to enter where they think is a banking site. They enter their username and their password. The fraudster runs a script in real time entering that username and password into the bank. The bank sends a one-time password or asks the customer to actually generate a one-time password, and the customer thinks, hang on, I'm on the right side, otherwise why would I receive an OTP? They enter it into the fake bank site, and the fraudster has your username, your password, and your one-time password. Phishing is really that simple, unfortunately. So what Entersekt does, and what we've patented in 2008, is we actually send details of the transaction to the customer and ask him with a simple yes/no question. Do you want to do this? The transaction is signed, end-to-end encrypted, and we send the answer back to the bank. So we bypass the middle, where the attack actually takes place, whether it's phishing, farming, man in the middle, key logging, etc. Okay. So how do we do this? We firstly do this with Transact, which is a standalone application based on X59 technology, or on an SDK, which actually allows you to put our authentication and security inside your banking application. It converts your application or our standalone or the mobile into a very strong, trusted second-factor authentication, and all of this with a simple yes/no, one-click authentication. We've done over 200 million transactions, as I said, without any fraud on this. We have a number of key differentiators in the market. Our cryptography is self-contained, meaning that we're actually impervious to rogue certificate authorities. We protect against malware. It works on feature phones and a number of OS issues like iOS had a number of updates this year. We're impervious to that. We provide an encrypted channel from the mobile device to hardware behind the bank's firewall, which is clusterable. So this is end-to-end channel to a specific user. What do you want to do with it? We have a proven track record, and we authenticate any digital channel, whether it's internet, mobile, or card purchases, or mobile payments. We have millions of end customers across Africa and some in Europe, moving into the US now. Some of our pipeline highlights: 2 of the top 4 US banks currently in POC. We have RFPs with 2 of the largest global payments providers and 15 POCs with banks in these 3 territories in the next couple of months. We targeted these 3 territories because 91% of global phishing is in North America and EMEA. Our business model is very simple. We've got a 3 or 5 year subscription model, all based on per users or per transactions. Case study, our first banking customer is Nedbank. It's one of the biggest banks in South Africa, and around 7 million customers, part of the Old Mutual group. Nedbank came to us with a specific phishing problem. All their transactions and users were protected by SMS OTP, but they still had a lot of phishing. We also they had limited online services, and they limited these services due to risk. Certain, like prepaid airtime and these things, they couldn't actually allow because it was too risky. And nearly half of their online card transactions were abandoned because customers didn't know how this worked or they didn't trust the mechanism. The sales cycle was actually quite short in this case, around 3 months, because the bank had a very specific need. So this is actually what happened after we implemented, and this is a NetBank slide that they presented at the Gartner IM in the US last year. You will see that to the left of the launch, there's quite a number of attempts and fraud. Successful fraud is the blue. The bank, unfortunately, took away the scale, but this shows what happened. And after our launch, you will see that no fraud, and also the attempts went away because fraudsters actually go where it's the easiest. You will see that top right is a South African Revenue Service phishing email. There's no NetBank logo. The fraudsters are not even trying anymore. Interestingly, because our authentication is so intuitive and so easy to use, we actually saw that the abandonment rate on card purchases went down by 80%. And because customers trust this channel, we saw that transactions are actually increasing. So we're not only affecting the bank's bottom line, but top line as well. You know, the more customers trust this, the more they use it. We also built a full banking application on top of our SDK, and because the bank had a trusted channel to a specific user, they actually had a number of market firsts, like business banking, share trading, in-app purchases and payments, as well as internet banking authentication built inside the application. And the app also detects if you're a banking employee, it gives you VPN and other staff functionality. Our expansion at this stage, firstly, plans is target financial services companies in Europe and the US directly. Also to convert some market maker POCs to deals and close with some payment providers which we've submitted RFPs. Our challenges, firstly, maintaining focus. We've got a long sales cycle, about 12 months, especially in a new market, it's longer. And our solutions are actually addressed a number of verticals inside a bank, which makes the decision process more difficult. We have a very experienced board who's actually built companies into global enterprises a number of times and worked in the banking industry as well. And on our management side, we have a number of executives that have built enterprise software and actually sold this into banks and enterprises for the last 15, 20 years. As an example, looking at Fransjo van Schoor, he was the president of S1 for the Postilion division a number of years, and he's doing that for us now.
Gerard, I was saying, for people who may not have been watching or were distracted, I was attemptedly robbed of 692 Rand this morning from someone I'd never heard of, claiming that this was a debit order, that it went out of my account, phoned the bank, asked them to reverse it, which they did. I said, who are these guys? Are you going to find them, these criminals? And they said, well, we don't know. We don't know who they are, and maybe we won't find them. So it really seems like you've got to be so vigilant, and with all the technology, voice passwords, etc., they can still get in.
Yes, David, I think the reality is where there's financial reward involved, people are going to find unique and innovative ways to get at your money. It's a very lucrative industry, if I can put it like that, with lots of people trying from high-tech to low-tech technologies. The specific attack, if I've got a brief summary, sounds like in one of the authenticated collection challenges. It's an area that the South African banks, together with the Payments Association of South Africa, is working hard at addressing. It's called authenticated collections, and what they want to bring in is effectively the same techniques that today you'll find in a lot of the South African banks employing, where when any risky transaction happens or new event happens, the bank will actually reach out to the customer and get his consent before doing it.
Well, in this case, they alerted me that a debit had already been paid out, which they then reversed. What interests me is with the technology that they have, that they cannot make it secure and that they cannot find where this money has gone. Is it not possible to find, if it's a bank transfer, which bank it's gone to?
I think definitely they can track the money quite quickly, but remember the attackers have got a range of systems set up and they know how to move. They will, for instance, set up a number of mule accounts that they will very quickly transfer money into, and then have people on standby, maybe with ATM cash out transactions, or being able to move the money into Bitcoin or into other currencies where they cannot then quickly get hold of it. So they've worked out their different mechanisms, and they're very quick to latch on and take it out. I think in the debit order space, there's a lot of people trying lots and lots of small transactions and hoping that there's a good percentage that will not pick it up, will not be as diligent as you. It's the same as a phishing attack, where they send thousands of emails hoping to get a very small percentage of people that fall for it, but that still makes it lucrative enough for them to go through the effort.
That's right. The amount isn't so different to some of the other amounts going out of the account. They keep telling us to get onto the apps, but the apps is a vulnerable place for the criminals.
I think if you look at the ecosystem of a typical PC and a web browser and where you point that web browser to, a lot of times an app can actually be more secure if the right technologies is applied. I think there's a number of good recipes that the industry is adopting worldwide now, and in some cases even enforcing, that helps protect you. Things such as two-factor authentication, out-of-band authentication are words and practices that are being used and have proven to prevent attacks from happening. You need to be vigilant. You shouldn't let your password be used in insecure places. And you should always see if you can get an out-of-band authentication, something that pushes up on your phone and wakes up in a second channel, confirming the transaction on that second channel for you before you just accept it. So fundamentally, there are a number of things in place. I think as customers, we must educate the customers, and the banks are trying to educate the customers about what these good practices are. And if they're not in place, to be vigilant and then take action and maybe notify the bank of these strange behavior.
That is Gerard Oosthuizen, the CIO of Entersekt.
By the end of 2021, Entersekt had secured over 69 million devices worldwide and almost 5 billion interactions across mobile and web. In December alone, we enabled 500 million smooth interactions for 25 million unique users at authentication speeds of up to 10 times faster than SMS OTP. In the payment authentication space, our 3D Secure solution achieved market-leading transaction times and record-beating transaction success rates without compromising on security or user experience. Earlier in the year, we also launched new low-friction payment experiences for some of our customers, including the world's first payment authentication solution powered by FIDO2 and South Africa's first peer-to-peer QR payment feature. If that was 2021, just imagine what the digital future could hold.
According to the FBI, these are just some of the defendants involved in what they describe as the largest online fraud scheme in the country that had worldwide implications.
Victims in Colombia, China, the Caribbean, Germany, Japan, Mexico, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom.
Based in Nigeria, the FBI says this crime ring also was able to hit 1,000 people who live in Los Angeles and bilk them out of $73 million.
In a luxury hotel room, we carefully set our trap with the help of experienced fraud investigators. Our targets lurk in the street below. Nigerian conmen awaiting the call from another victim. But this time the call will come from us. And undercover police are ready to pounce.
No more mucking around. You want your money, come up, I'll give it to you, you can go.
These greedy scammers are slicker than ever. To better hide their tracks, they've spread from Nigeria to become a global pandemic.
They're intelligent, they're resourceful, they've got global networks, and let's face it, at this point in time, they're winning the battle.
Here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, our chance to strike back.
That's when you and the police come in.
On behalf of the 10,000 Australians who, despite all the publicity, still hand over a total of $10 million to these shysters every single month.
You count?
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, we're from 60 Minutes Australia and you seem to be in a lot of trouble.
They're the lowest of the low. They're absolute scumbags, and they're a poor excuse for a con man.
When we first exposed Nigerian scammers in Lagos 6 years ago, they ran a simple but lucrative operation, sending dodgy emails around the world requesting money with the lure of a handsome return.
Sit down! Sit down!
But the swindlers have a new shtick. They've moved onto dating sites, and the cruel hook they use is the promise of love.
I suppose he absolutely had me by my heart. This guy was just telling me everything that I wanted to know.
He was saying everything he knew you wanted to hear.
Everything I wanted to hear, yeah. He was making me feel as if I was worth a person.
Rosalie is 53, divorced and terribly lonely. For romance scammers, the perfect mark. Looking for love online, she met Benjamin Walthall, a handsome American businessman working in Malaysia. Ben wooed her for hours at a time. He even sent flowers. Rosalie believed she'd finally found true love. And when the man of her dreams asked for loans to help his business, she happily handed over thousands.
$90,000, plus what I still owe in phone calls, and I have a debt of $15,000.
You've given away your entire life savings and you're in debt.
Yes.
In this city in southwest Nigeria, everyone seems to know someone who scams Americans online.
The culture of scamming people, that culture I think is in Nigeria, yes.
And they say it is simply because there are no other jobs.
When you've tried good, it doesn't work, you have to turn to evil.
Chris, that's the name he gave us, says that was his situation.
I have 3 elder siblings and none of them has a job.
For 5 years, he approached American women online.
Mostly midnight. Sometimes I sleep by 5 a.m.
So you'd stay up all night doing this?
Yeah, all night. And I have to go to class by 7 a.m.
Finally, he convinced a woman from Texas that they were in love.
I spend a lot of time talking to her. She wants attention. People in America want attention.
I don't consider myself stupid, but they got me.
Laura Francis was 68 when another scammer, later traced to Nigeria, found her.
He would send beautiful sayings every morning. Good morning, sweetheart. So happy that I met you.
But it was this question that did the trick.
Don't you think you're worthy of being loved?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's kind of a question I hadn't thought about.
Then the scammer began inventing financial emergencies.
How much did you end up losing?
$248,800.
Oh, man, I am so sorry.
I'm going to survive. I'm just not going to be able to do what I had planned on doing.
For victims, the lesson is clear.
Your alarm bells should be ringing when these new relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, start asking you for your hard-earned dollars.
Chris got only $20,000 out of his victim, but that is 10 years' salary in a country where more than half of the population lives in extreme poverty. Chris says he was so remorseful he confessed to his victim.
She cried for days, but to my surprise, she did not block me. She adopted me like a son.
And today, he consults with an American company, Social Catfish, to spot future scams. For Laura, the experience taught her about evil, she says, but also about poverty.
And they need to find jobs for these guys, and they need to give them a better way of life.
Until then, millions of young men like Chris have no better option than to look for the...
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has extradited a wire fraud suspect, Adedumola Badigeshi, to the United States, where he is wanted in a case of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering. The offenses carry a maximum jail term of 20 years. His extradition was coordinated by the EFCC following a request from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, pursuant to a February the 11th, 2022 order by Justice D. Osiago of the Federal High Court, Lagos, in a lawsuit which granted a request to extradite the suspect to answer to criminal charges bordering on romance scam, wire fraud, and money laundering. Mr. Gbadigeshi, who was arrested on the 2nd of September 2021, is alleged to have defrauded an American lady living in Kentucky, United States, of over $148,000. A statement by the head media of publicity of the EFCC, Wilson Wujare, says, on his arrival in the United States, the suspect is billed to appear before a district court in New Mexico, where 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering have been filed against him.
Cybersecurity threats aren't just against governments or big enterprises anymore. It affects everybody. It affects regular, normal people like you and me. In 2014, I had an identity theft incident. I had to really go get about 6 to 10 different solutions to be able to string together, which even at that point, it didn't feel like it was comprehensive to me. I had to spend hundreds of dollars a month to make sure that I had this modest sense of protection, not comprehensive. It seemed to me at that time that there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's why I created Aura. Aura is an easy to use, all-in-one, a digital security solution that helps prevent digital threats for you and your family. We're also backed by an amazing support team that can help remedy any of the issues that you may face in the cybersecurity world. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And so that's really what Aura aspires to do, is to make sure that we fortify all these different points of entry through which criminals can enter your life, and at the same time, try to prevent a lot of these issues from happening.